Oh my goodness. Um, Spirit of the man references another spirit, and we can tell by that spirit that if it's a good spirit or bad spirit. Spiritual discernment. When Christ was here, Christ was a master at all these things that he did. Um, he met a woman, or rather the woman met him, came from behind him and touched his clothes, and the Bible says she had an issue of blood for 12 years. And she came up behind him and touched him. Now Jesus was so sensitive to the Spirit that he could tell when somebody had touched him. Now, I'm not sure whether this was a ability that the Lord had that we don't. Well, obviously it is for some of us, but an ability that he had that we can't obtain. And I think that is something that we had that we can obtain. Because he said, all these things I do, you shall do. So it has to be something that we can obtain. But getting to that place where we can do those things that Christ did is not an easy task. There is no step 1, step 2, step 3, and you're there. But it's almost like it's different for every person. Just like when you are convinced that God is real, it's different for every person. It's not going to be the same things that convinced me that is needed to convince you that the Lord is real. So obtaining a spiritual level is going to be different as well. Sometimes it may not take as much for me as it does you. But here's the story. Of course, the woman had an issue of blood 12 years. Mark chapter 5, verse starting at 25, and verse 26 says, and suffered many things of the doctor. Boy, I've been there, and was nothing the better, but rather grew worse. When she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind and touched him. The press behind, that means a thick crowd of people that's hard to get through. That's what it's talking about. And when she had heard of Jesus, she came behind him, touched his garment. For she said, if I touch but his clothes, I'll be whole. And straightway the fountain of blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, who touched my clothes? And of course they said, Lord, there's many people around you, and a lot of people is touching you. They all got their hands on you. And I can imagine that I would have been there doing the same thing, and who knows what I might have gotten, and who knows what you can get, if you touch the Lord. But this lady believed, and therefore when she touched, she received. And the spiritual implications of that are out of this world, because there's an endless number of things that we can achieve through spiritual victories. So when this lady touched his clothes, the Bible said virtue went out of him. Well, the virtue went out because it was his price that he paid, of course. It was the price on the cross that he paid. But by faith, this thing happened that caused her to be healed. So therefore, when the Spirit references another spirit, then it's a godly thing. It's something supernatural. It's hard to explain. I'm sitting here trying to find the words to explain exactly what happened, but the words is hard to find because you just don't excuse me, you just don't explain how God does things in the Spirit without having to beat around the bush a little bit, you know what I mean? So, and it's kind of late and I'm tired. It's like, I don't know, 1:15 in the morning, and my spirit is not quite up to par. And I've got a scratchy throat. But you know something? I can still touch the Lord. You know, when we pray, we can touch the Lord in prayer. Just like you did there, man. Just bow your head and say, Lord, just say, Father, I desire a touch from you. Lord, just reach out and gather strength. Lord, and let me touch something that is not of man, but is supernatural. Something that can cause the virtue to flow again. And something that can cause me to be healed from my toes to my head. And allow me, Lord, to stand into your presence just for a little while. And let me know this earth is not my reward, but Father, a greater reward is coming beyond measure. And when you get into that place with God, virtue begins to move again, even like it did there that day, bringing healing to your spirit, healing to your conscience, to your mind, to your soothing all of your doubts. And God will cause you to be able to keep going. Even in the face of discouragement, God will cause you to keep going again. Alright, God bless. Thanks for joining me. See you again tomorrow with another message right here on Crossing the Middle Ministry.